Hey YouTube, Lord Alex here, and I've got something else to show you guys for camping and survival and that type of stuff. This is called Fatwood, and you can buy it in stores now. I didn't realize this. I have been on Fatwood adventures going to go and find it and harvest it, and sometimes it can take you all day to find the right pine tree, and then trying to harvest it can be a pain in the ass sometimes. If you buy some of this in the store, you can take a couple pieces with you. It comes in a bunch of sticks like this. See, it's just a bunch of pre-split sticks of Fatwood, and you can tell they're just full of pine resin. If you don't know what Fatwood is, it's a very good fire starting tinder or fire making fuel. It comes from pine trees. When pine trees get old and die, before they fall over, all of the sap and tar and resin and whatever you want to call it sinks down to the bottom of the tree. It all just kind of falls down and collects in the base of this tree. And so what you do is you have this wood that's just completely saturated with pine sap and pine tar, which is very flammable. It works as pine tar by itself. If you're out and you need something to start a fire with in a long-term situation, you can actually harvest this from a live pine tree. You can cut a notch in the pine tree and it will bleed pine tar to seal itself up and protect itself from little bugs and whatever else. And you can actually scrape that off of there and continue to scrape it every few days and get a pretty good amount of pine tar for extending the life of your tinder bundle. It'll make it burn just a little bit longer, so you can get your fire started a little bit better. So I'm going to show you guys how good this stuff is. I've started carrying some of this in my backpack, my camping kit, in my truck, along with this stuff. I made a video on this stuff a while back. This is pretty much my favorite fire starter here. Now that I've got both of these together, there's no chance I won't get a fire started. I mean, absolutely no chance that I will not get a fire started. These are called safety light squares, I believe. They come in a big long bricks like this in a box. I've got a video on it. Check out fire starting. You'll see it if you look through my videos. So yeah, I keep this stuff, and I keep a log of it in my truck. I keep it in my camping kit. I keep it in my cooking kit. I keep it everywhere. Really good stuff. It burns when it's wet. I made a video in the ashtray. I dunked it in the water and it's still lit. It'll take spark from a ferro rod. This square burns for about 10 minutes. So, I mean, you can take it apart. You can peel it apart and make 2 squares out of it. Really, really good stuff here. Well, here's some more really good stuff here. This also, now this is not waterproof like this is. This is permeated with some type of oil and some other stuff. It doesn't make a mess, but it makes it so it's extremely water resistant, if not waterproof. These, depending on the amount of pine tar that is in the wood, that depends on that. The amount of waterproofness is dependent on how much pine tar is in the wood. Like, there's a few pieces in here I can tell that have maybe more pine saturation, more tar saturation than others. Like, there's this piece and there's this piece. This piece is much darker, which means it's got much more pine sap in it. This has got some in it. You can see a string of it here and a piece of it here. But if this gets rained on heavily, I would be willing to guess that most of this will get wet and it probably will not work as well as it should. But then pieces like this and pieces like this that are very dark, you can see where the pine tar has built up in there. Those are going to be much more waterproof. And what I've done here, one of these sticks, and while you're camping or surviving or whatever, will last you quite a while. These are meant for starting a fire in your fireplace or for your smoker, your grill, or things like that, where you would just get a couple of them, and you can just light this, and it will light like a big match. You light it with a lighter or with a match, and it will light, and it will just burn like this. So you can get a couple of these, stack them up, put your charcoal on top of it or whatever. But in a survival situation, or when you're camping or something like that, you just need something to help your fire get started. I just made a few little shavings here. So I just made a video about this cheap $2 knife here. It's a more knockoff called a Wahoo Killer from the Butt K catalog. Just got it here. Just made some shavings. And if you wanted to go even finer than that, you can turn the knife sideways and just scrape it. And you can actually make a pile of this pine tar like dust almost. If you needed to light it from a ferro rod or something, you could just sit there and scrape it with your blade 90 degrees to the wood, and get a good amount of this dust. I'm going to be using a match, so these little small shavings will be just fine. You want to keep them thin, and curling like that is perfect, so you can get lots of airflow in between them. You can also get this, I'm not sure I'd use it this long, I'd probably break it in half, and then split it into like little matchsticks. And that will work very good for lighting a fire with a lighter or matches or something like that. Or if you wanted to do that on top of something like this, where you could use this to catch the initial flame and then make some of your little matchsticks to make a teepee on top of it. That'd work really good. So, get your matches. Now if you have Strike Anywhere matches and they have red tips on them, you need to check them. If you've got them in your kits, in your bags, in your backpacks or whatever, and they've just been sitting for a while, if you get them in your kitchen cabinet, you need to check them and make sure they still work. Because they haven't made those in probably 5 years. So if you've got Strike Anywhere matches with red tips on them, check them. You might be time to throw them away. I've also got a video on that. It's called Throw Away Your Strike Anywhere Matches. So check out that video. It explains to you why you need to throw away your Strike Anywhere matches. Now, what I'm going to do, I've just got a pile of those little shavings here in this ashtray so I don't burn the house down. Strike it. And that's all it takes. I just touched it. Just touch it. And it lights right up. And it smells kind of good too. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and light this up and you'll see how much flame you get. You know what? I'm going to use something else. Since they are Strike Anywhere matches, sometimes you don't carry the box with you. So, let's say I've got... Here we go. Spyderco Tenacious, right? G10 handles. Guess what those are good for? Yep, every time. So, touch it. Right there. And it started. And watch that. You notice that was only shaving from this much off this stick here. And that's a pretty good sized flame there. And it's burning pretty well. You saw how easy that was to light. And like I said, I only shaved from here up on this stick that's this long. That was enough to give me that much fire. And that, if I had a tinder bundle here, that's more than enough to get a fire started. I mean, that's big flame right there. That's way bigger than a match. I can start a fire with a match, no problem. That's way more than a match right there. So, it's a very good fire starter. And you'll see other guys online using Fatwood, and I'm not sure if they buy these sticks like this or if they harvest themselves. I'm sure guys on the survival channels will actually go and get it themselves. But I'll show you on this big stick here. Oh, maybe I won't. almost there. Okay, well I didn't light. These will light with a lighter or a match. Just hold it on there and it will light. So you saw that. There was maybe 30 seconds or so of big flame from that little amount of material that I used. And it's not even burned up yet. I could probably light this again if I wanted to. But I'm not going to because now my closet's full of smoke. So, there you go. It's good stuff. Starter stick with 2K from Pine Mountain. It says Fatwood fire starter. And then something in French, I guess. So this is 1.5 pounds. It started out as 1.5 pounds. I think it was $8 maybe. Somewhere around there. And I've already, like I said, I've used some. This was full. I've used some, and I've got some in different places. I've got a couple of them in my truck. I got a couple of them in my cooking kit. A couple of them in a camping kit. I've got them spread out. So I probably used about 1/3 of these just to spread out in my kits, and I've used another, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 stick starting fires. And they come in all different random pieces. Some of them are big, some of them are small. But they all work. So, there you go. Good stuff. And you can buy Fatwood in the stores. It works just as well as if you were to go and find a pine tree yourself and cut it out of there, which sometimes is not an easy task at all. So there you go. You get this with this together, and you're going to have a hard time not getting a fire started. Whether it's raining or snowing or your tinder is a little bit wet or whatever. If you've got one of these two things, or if you have both of them, you'll never have to worry about getting a fire started ever again. You've got these in some type of ignition. Either one of these, if you prepare either one of these right, you can light them with any method of fire start. Any method. You can use a Fresnel lens or a magnifying glass. You can use a ferro rod. You can use, of course, matches and lighter. You could probably, I haven't tried it, you could probably use this for a friction fire. I showed you in my other video, if you get your knife and you drill into the middle of here, it makes a really fine, like a dusty powder stuff that will catch sparks from a ferro rod really easy. I'm sure if you were to dig a hole in here and have some of that sitting there, if you get an ember from a friction fire or what are those called? Fire pistons. I bet you could stick that in there and this would burn. Like I said, I have not tried that yet. But, like I said, these two things, you got guaranteed fire. Guaranteed fire. All day long. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and comment. And tell me if you've got anything else that you'd like to carry for fire starting. Of course, people are going to say, "Oh, dryer lint. You got to have dryer lint." I do not like dryer lint. I have tried it, and you have to be careful of what batches of clothes you pull the dryer lint from, because a lot of clothes are not cotton. Your dryer lint has to be 100% cotton for it to work properly. If you've got acrylic and different things in there, wool, your dryer lint will not work the way you need it to. So, don't like that. But if you've got other ways, things like this, or other different things that you use for tinder, let me know in the comments, or make a video response. And, once again, thanks for watching. Come back and see my other videos. Thanks, guys.